Knows Best.
Hi, friends, and welcome back to Brenna Knows Best. I'm your host, Brenna Berg. Hi, how are you guys? Happy Monday. I'm freezing my literal tits off. My tits are gone. They've always been gone, but they're especially gone. You guys, it is so cold in Dallas. It's the only thing I can think about because Carter won't let me turn on the heat. No, he said I could, but I'm trying to stay strong. And now that I think about it, what is it with men and the thermostat? Is it going to be more expensive? Is it a cost issue? I don't even actually know why the reason is that we're trying to be fucking tough. Is it expensive? Is it just because men don't want to concede and say, oh, it's cold out, let's turn on the heat? Like, is it an ego thing? I actually don't know, but my father was this exact way. So I have just quite literally lived my whole life scared of thermostats. So I don't even touch ours as is. I finally have worked up the courage because what Carter does every night is during the day, we leave it, well, we used to leave it at 70 until I got the courage to touch it. Then I turn it up a little bit. I'll go 71, 72, 73. But then every single night he turns it down to 68. And so I started doing that. Like if I'm doing the little closing shift, which really the closing shift is just like shutting off the lights, triple checking that the door is locked, locking our bathroom and our bedroom door, and then touching the thermostat and turning it down. Okay. Carter does it probably 97% of the time because that's job. Oh, grabbing waters. Did I say that's job? That's his job. Okay. I grab the waters because he's always last. Like Carter's hygiene routine, which he's just far more hygienic than me. Let's be fucking for real. Not even that, but like getting ready and getting unready routine is like far more extensive than mine will ever be. And so he's always the last one up. So then he'll run to the door, he'll do the whole thing. But every once in a while, once in a blue freaking moon, last night, okay, Carter, I got up to go to the bathroom and he's like, can you go grab me a snack? Because, oh, you guys, I totally forgot to say, I made my first ever banana bread. Okay. Now, I probably have a ton of girlies on one hand that are like, bitch, banana bread, how easy. I bake that all the time. You're freaking weird. Okay. I'm saying that you're saying that to me. And then you have other girlies, okay, who aren't bakers, who don't cook, who are like me in my past life. Now that I'm a wife, not actually, but like kind of, I cook, I bake, I'm doing all of these things. However, the only reason really that I made it is because I hate wasting food. Wasting anything, but food especially to me is a sin. Okay. I don't even really know that much about sins. I don't even know any of the actual sins. I think lying to your neighbor, I don't know. I'm not even going to go there. However, one of my sins is wasting food. You know who doesn't have a problem doing that? Carter. Okay. I need to quit throwing him under the bus. It's not that he tries to, it's not that he wants to, but when you come from a privileged life, like the nanny family, for example, when they would throw away food, I'm like, ah! And again, nanny mom, like she would really try not to, but I'm telling you in my family, if you throw away food, you're getting nasty looks. Like we will do anything other than throw away food. It's expired. We're eating it. Like that is just the way that I grew up. So I just have no concept of throwing food away. So it just, I just hate it. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's just like, I will not allow it. But what I do is I buy things that I think Carter likes, and Carter goes in and out of like foods. You know, one week he's having a banana every morning, and then one week he's really into peppers and cucumbers. So then the next time I go to the grocery store, I'll get them, and then all of a sudden he's not eating them, which I think is a normal thing to do. However, I had bought a huge bushel of bananas because we were talking. And as you know, I came home from Christmas and then Carter was home at his family's, and we were discussing New Year's resolutions. And obviously just with the new year, everybody's like health, woo, which we are normally health, woo people. Okay. But especially Carter was like, I want to get on that grind. And I'm there. So he was coming home on that Sunday, the Sunday in between Christmas and New Year's, and I went to Costco the night before. So I got our chicken, our other chicken. I got a huge thing of bananas, apples, all of the things, asparagus, green beans. Well, he gets back. Work was light. So he went to the office like Monday. Tuesday, he came home like super early. Wednesday was January 1st. Thursday was light. He didn't even go in, I think, or he did for a little bit. Work has been kind of slow. It picked back up this week on Monday. However, our routine was fucked. And Carter claimed that he wanted to eat healthy. Well, that's not the life that he was living. He said, "Do you want to go grab this? I'll order taco stand. Let's do this. Let's do that." I had this chicken. I had this asparagus. Like I was ready to be cooking, but it was a weird week. Like number one, the holiday in the middle of the week. So yeah, we were sitting at home vegging out all day, and it was just, we wanted to do something special for the holiday, which was ordering that shitty Chinese food. It just didn't happen. So let me get to the freaking point. Bananas. I had 7 bananas, and every day they're going by. And I got a huge thing of apples for myself at Costco. It was literally this big box of like either 8 or 10, I think, apples. And I was having one of those every day with my almond butter. So I kind of go back and forth. But typically I don't have this much, but like I thought we were kicking it into the new year. Well, Carter didn't touch the bananas, which I then was like, oh, I got to eat apples and bananas. Typically, that's my afternoon snack. In between breakfast and lunch, that's not the afternoon, you dumb bitch. Well, I kind of push my breakfast off. So my lunch is around like 2. So at like noon, that is, I guess, my afternoon snack. I'll have a banana or an apple with almond butter. Okay. Well, anyways, you get it. Okay. You dumb bitch. Like, Brenna, get to the point. The bananas start to go bad. And I'm like, okay, let me try out some banana bread because I'm not throwing these away, especially 7. You guys, it was 7 bananas. I said, I'll make 2 loaves because I found a recipe online and it said to use 2 to 3 bananas. So I did 3 in one and 4 in the other. But basically, I made banana bread for the first time and it was delish. I was going to make one during the day while Carter was gone. This was, I don't know what day. What day is it even today? It's Wednesday today. Because you guys know that I film my pod on Thursdays. Well, tomorrow we're supposed to get snow potentially. And even just the word potentially means that Dallas is going to shut down. And I have a very good feeling that Carter won't go into the office. So I have to film this today, obviously. But anyways, it was like Monday, I think. I wanted to make a loaf during the day and then I was going to try it and make sure it was like good and fine. And then when Carter was going to come home from work that evening, I was going to do a loaf after dinner. That way it was like fresh and then I could just freeze the other one or whatever. Well, I made this loaf and actually Carter came home early that day. So he tried it immediately. It was like noon and he loved it. So he ate a few slices and then yesterday he had a few, but last night he gets home from the office at like 6 or 7. Yesterday was a busy day. And he said that they catered in a lunch because they had like a working lunch. I don't know. Anyways. And it was Mendocino Farms, but it like upset his tummy. So I was like, oh, I was going to make chicken orzo. And he's like, honestly, babe, my tummy's kind of feeling funny. Like I probably won't have that much. I'll just like have a protein shake or whatever. Well, there was the banana bread recipe originally told me to use a 8x4 pan, I believe, like the little bread pan. Well, number one, I ordered Target delivery the day that I wanted to do it. And the only one they had on Target delivery, because I got a bunch of other stuff as well. That way I didn't pay for the delivery. It was like a 5x13. And I was like, okay, well then I can use all of the bananas. Well, the driver comes at like 8 p.m. that night. And I get this pan and I'm like, okay, this will work for this specific loaf. But then after this, what the fuck am I going to use this pan for? It was like so ungodly long. It was just far too long. I'm like, I'm never going to use this again. So the very next day, I dropped Carter off at work and then I went to Target. I returned it. And then I went to the aisle where all the pans were and they didn't have any 8x4s, but they had a 9x5. And in the recipe that I had, it was like, you can use a 9x5, but the time in the oven was just a little bit different. I was like, what the fuck ever. I need to make this banana bread because because the bananas are going bad. So I grabbed the 9x5. Well, it's pretty big. It creates like a pretty big loaf. And there was probably like a fourth of this loaf left last night. And so when Carter said he wasn't going to have dinner, right? So then I didn't have to cook. He ate, you guys, it was like essentially almost what a normal like small loaf of banana bread would be. He cut it into 4 thick slices and that's what he had for dinner. And I had made a second loaf earlier yesterday. So I made that first loaf 2 days ago on Monday. Yesterday, I made the other one early in the morning and then I packaged it up in tin foil and put it in the freezer. And I was like, okay, this weekend or whenever we want it, I can just pull it out and that'll be good. Well, last night, so he ate that for quite literally dinner at like 6. Well, he's in bed because he didn't have an actual dinner at like 9. And he was like, is that other banana bread ready? And I'm like, well, now it's frozen. I didn't know you were just going to chomp right through this. Well, then we got into an argument, not an actual argument, but he was like, we need snacks here. And I'm like, the reason I don't get snacks is because this happens. You go through it. I'm the same way. I don't have self-control. I don't know that it has anything to do with my previous eating disorder, which I feel like I'm fully healed from that. I actually have seen videos recently with the whole New Year situation and people doing wellness goals. And that girl, Liv Schmidt, I don't even know who she really is, but I see her get bashed left and right because apparently she promotes like super bad, like being skinny, which I don't think overall is a bad thing, but like to an extreme, like to a bad degree. I don't know who this is. I don't see the content, but I see the discourse around it and how bad it is. And I agree with that. Like girls that promote not eating essentially and over exercising, that's really bad. Obviously, I went through that. The reason I went through that, which I was going to make a video on this, is because this was in 2015 when the YouTube bodybuilder genre gurus was like at its peak. All of those, Katie Hearn, all of those big people, which Katie Hearn is the founder of Alani Nu, right? Maybe she didn't do bodybuilding, but it was like that same, each like the beauty YouTubers, like they're in a little bubble. Then you have the fitness bubble, like Grace, who I also don't think did bodybuilding, but Grace Fit UK, who's now just like Grace Beverly, she founded Tala. It was like these people, and bodybuilding was really big that time. So it was like the weighing of your food. And I'm not blaming them at all. I do not believe in like the blaming others. I understand people should be, as a content creator, conscious of what they're putting out there, but it was just the time period and they were doing bodybuilding. So naturally, like they were just showing what they were doing. Yet did it definitely affect, like I was trying to learn from them? Totally. But I'm not going to blame my eating disorder on them. It was just like the time period. Anywho, basically, people are talking about the new year and eating healthy and whatever. Where the fuck was I going with this? Oh, okay, it's coming back to me. Snacking. Okay, I was talking about my eating disorder. And I think I've always been this way, honestly, pre-eating disorder. Like, if there is a good, tasty snack around, if it's chips, if it's like chocolate, whatever the thing is, okay, I won't stop until it's gone. And Carter's the same way. The banana bread is like the perfect thing. He just ate that whole thing. He wanted more. I'm like, oh my gosh, which is fine. Eat whatever you want, but we have no chill, which means I can't keep like, especially bad, unhealthy snacks around or just snacks in general, because if they are there, I'll eat them. Okay, so we keep like chopsticks, trail mix, protein bars, which are not good for you at all, but whatever, and stuff like that around, but that's not like what you're craving in the nighttime. Oh, the little fruit leather strips, we love having those from Costco, but other than that, like those are our snacks. But anyways, I took out the loaf today. This morning I asked Carter, I'm like, are you gonna want this banana bread later or tomorrow? And he was like, yes. I was like, okay, let me just take that out. I shouldn't have frozen it in the first place, but you live and you learn. So anyways, okay, made my first thing of banana bread, which leads me, it was a perfect timing because Monday is when it started getting cold. And you guys, when I say cold for Dallas, Texas, just for anywhere in general, as a pre-North Dakotan, okay, not a pre-North Dakotan. Oh, also NDSU. Oh my gosh. You guys, my brain is here. It's there. It's everywhere. NDSU. North Dakota State University, where I went. Okay, roll herd, go Bison. Okay, I actually have no pride whatsoever. I don't even think I own one singular NDSU hat. That is all. Our football team for its division is bomb. Okay. Every single year that I went there, we won the FCS championship, which is like the national championship, but it's not Big 10 and Big 12 football. It's like a smaller level. For my girlies that don't really follow along with sports, they're good for their division, but they're playing like Montana State and Sam Houston and Bowling Green. Okay, all of these smaller colleges, but it is Division 1. Anyways, I'm not going to vouch for them because they have the biggest heads ever. Okay, I've always gone to schools. I told you guys about my high school. Like my high school football team won state every single year. We're in fucking North Dakota. Okay, these guys acted like their shit did not stink. If they played the worst team in Texas, they would lose. If they played the worst football team anywhere else, but because they were the Class A, the highest class, AKA, there are 2 classes in North Dakota of schools, Class A and Class B, because we have no fucking people, but they were the Class A football championships. Oh my gosh. Back when I had Twitter, you guys, oh my gosh, have I told you about this? I popped off on Twitter, and not in a way of like followers or anything. I would speak my mind. I've always been who I am, right? I've always enjoyed ruffling feathers. I've always enjoyed speaking my mind, and I would talk shit left and right. And I would get in literal Twitter, not fights, because I would never like entertain it, but I would make tweets just like, for example, I would say that. I'm like, the football team, their heads are ginormous. Shut the fuck up. Like, you're good for North Dakota. That means nothing. We're probably the worst sport state out of all 50 states. I mean, come on. And this is the problem. And this is why I think overall I have a general issue with most people. You gotta see outside of yourself. Like, I understand that's not the kind thing to say, but it's like, I'm being real. I'm being so fucking for real. It's true. It's true. What I'm typically saying is not wrong. Okay. And just like, I get it. It might upset you and whatever, but it's like, be so fucking for real. And of course, so all of the guys in my high school, they'd be like, oh, you don't have any school spirit. It's like, this is high school. This is high school, you guys. Like, you have to be able to see outside of yourself. Like, please. Okay, please. Anyways. I did not intend on going down memory lane. However, NDSU is the same thing. Like, they all think their shit doesn't stink. And some of them do go to the NFL and pop off. Okay, I'm still not that impressed by that. I mean, great for you that you get your salary, but it's like, you know, the whole girl and athlete thing, I used to be that bitch. I used to be like, oh my gosh, love athletes, whatever. But it's like, really, it's kind of unimpressive. Like, it's cool that they're good at what they do, but I might be saying this now because I have Precious Carter, but like once I went to Dallas and like met business people and people who are like smart and have that kind of drive towards life, I'm like, oh, like they're really just some dumb jocks. A lot of them, not all. Okay, again, I'm going to get myself canceled here, but NDSU wins the FCS championship like every goddamn year. They had a slow period. We had Carson Wentz, yada, yada. Well, they came down on Monday. And when I say they came down, Frisco, Texas. Okay, I'm in Dallas, Texas. Frisco is a suburb of Dallas, of the DFW area. The FCS championship, the FCS is the division of football that NDSU is in. Their championship game is at Toyota Stadium in Frisco every single year. Every single year for the past, I don't know how long, at least 10 years. When I was in college and when I first moved to Dallas, every single January 4th, NDSU would come down, or like very first weekend of January, to play in this championship because we're always in the championship. People in Frisco know NDSU because they like take over. All of the people come down in their buses. And there was this bar I saw once. They had NDSU shit everywhere. It's just funny because we're in Dallas. DFW is huge. NDSU, like, yeah, people, if you know sports, kind of, you'll know of NDSU, but otherwise, you don't know fucking North Dakota is. Anywho, obviously, it's a coincidence just because it's the beginning of January and it gets cold in January, but it just so happens to align with NDSU coming down to Frisco, it always gets cold. So like the ongoing joke is that NDSU brings it with them because it's obviously fucking freezing in NDSU or in North Dakota in general. And they always come to play the championship game. And it's like they bring the cold weather with them. It's for real. So NDSU came down on Monday, and Monday is when it got cold. And NDSU won. So they're the FCS champions. Woohoo. Roll Herd. Go Bison. And now, I think tomorrow, it is Thursday, we potentially could get snow. Regardless, it's cold as fuck. That's all I have to say about that. And while I was making banana bread, that was Monday, I couldn't turn on the heat, or Carter said I could. He never does not allow me to do things. I always joke with him. I'm like, oh, you would get mad if I did that, or I just didn't want to annoy you. And he's like, babe, name one time I've gotten mad at you. Name one time I've gotten annoyed with you. Never. You guys, he has quite literally never outwardly, never inwardly, because we talk about everything. He just doesn't get mad at me or get annoyed with me, even when I'm being annoying, even when I could make somebody mad. Never. With me, Carter is just like the most gentle, giant, supportive BF ever. I don't know why I said BF, fiance, but like for real, I can't name a time. So he always says that. He's like, name a time. And I'm like, I know, but like, I know that you don't want to turn on the heat. So what I did is I set the oven to 350. I made the banana bread. And then after obviously shut the oven off. Okay. And then I opened the stove or the oven. Which is it? Stove or oven? No, the stove is the top. The oven is where I'm talking about. I creaked it open just a little bit. You know, there's a spot where you can just like leave the door open, and I let the hot air roam in. And really, it didn't do shit. I sat there for a while with my hands. It's not that cold in our apartment. When we wake up, it says 64, which is pretty cold, but I don't think that's like super, super accurate. And then during the day, it gets up to like 66. It's not terrible. It's just like, I want to be in 75 degrees. I would rather be sweating every single time over shivering. So that's what I did. And then Carter came home and I was like, I found a solution to the cold. And he's like, you did not turn on the heat. And I kind of looked at him. He's like, oh my gosh. And he was like joking around. I'm like, no, even better. I said, babe, I would never do that. You told me not to, right? Or you asked me not to, or you just said you wouldn't. Okay. I said, I cracked open the freaking oven and I stood there like it was a goddamn fire. And I said, it really did help. I think it did warm the place up. So basically, my girl Brooke on TikTok live yesterday, she said that I'm living in the Stone Ages, but you do what you got to do. My dad was the same way. So like I learned these tricks. LaDonna too. Like my whole family lives like this. So I know all the little tips and tricks to stay warm in the cold, because if anything coming from North Dakota has taught me, it's that. Speaking of this apartment, you guys, I've been thinking a lot about moving, and basically this also has a lot to do with finances. Our lease in this apartment is not up until August 4th, I believe. So is this premature? Absolutely. Am I still going to sit and dwell on it every day? Abso-fucking-lutely so. Okay. Here is the thing. Carter and I keep talking about buying a house, but this year it's not going to happen, I don't think, unless I somehow pulled the biggest brand deal out of my ass cheeks. I don't see it happening, just because we really want to, and we will have paid off Carter's loan by the end of this year, his student loans. And that is our priority in this moment, but that is a big chunk of money, and that's fine. I would much rather take care of that, even though we don't need to. The interest, it's just like such a weight lifted off of your shoulders when you get rid of that. Like once I paid my student loans off, it was just something that I didn't have to think about anymore. And like the weight that debt carries over you is insane. But one of our, bigger goals is to buy a house, obviously just to build equity and to not be renting and throwing money out. However, the housing market is insane. We're going to be paying a fuck ton of money if we want a decent house. So what I have told Carter is that in August, we should just find a house rental or a townhome rental, because we really just like don't love apartment living. I guess I don't necessarily mind it. I would prefer to be in a luxury high rise. I know that's bougie, but once you live in like a luxury high-rise building, it's just hard to go back down. And our apartment is fine, but it is a mid-rise. There's a lot of people. One of the things with like a luxury high-rise, number one, like the security, the concierge, that's all wonderful. But also there's not that many people on your floor, which I don't know why that bothers me so much, but there are so many people on our floor and I just feel like it's not super secure and I run into people all the time. I lived at One Uptown in Dallas and there were, I think, 10 units on my floor. I never saw a person. I never ran into people. And the whole entire apartment itself was pretty small. It was only like 20 floors. So that's what, 200 units. And I don't think most people lived there full time, but the concierge was amazing. And I don't know. So I love that. But it's just so hard to find a happy medium because we don't want to go over, I think, $3,000 in rent in general. Like that just is insane. I think what we pay now is insane, but you have to give and take with an apartment, you know, location. We always talked about the triangle while I was a real estate agent. You guys, I was apartment locator. I was an apartment locator. And it's like you can have two of the three in the triangle. It's your budget, which is number one, the one that people can never fudge on. And then it's location and finishes. Like you can have two, but not three. If you have a budget, it's like you're either going to get a nice apartment and you're going to have to slough on the location, or you're going to get a good location and you're not going to have the nice finishes, which our apartment is beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but it's still like the whole mid-rise situation. Like it's not the nicest apartment in our neighborhood, but we love the location and we still pay $2,500. But I just don't think I will allow us to go over $3,000, even though we can, even though it would be fine. It just like, that is insanity to me. And I think we could find a decent house or a townhome right around that price range. And I told Carter, I'm like, why don't we just find a townhome? And the reason that I say that is because we extended our lease last year for a year because we thought we would potentially be able to buy once this lease ended, or at least, you know, extend another 6 months onto this and be fine because we do love the location. We love the gym. But I'm like, why don't we just put that aside, not worry about buying right now? Because also a house in an area that we're going to want is going to be so much fucking money. And I don't want to just run into that or rush into that. And also like, I don't want to get just a little dinky shack, which is totally fine as a starter home. Like I have my expectations low, but it's like in my head, this is what I ran past Carter. I said, why don't we just find a house or a townhome that we enjoy in an area that we enjoy that's under 3,000 and live there for the next couple of years, at least a year. I would say a couple. That way, even if we were ready to buy next year when that lease would be up, let's just keep saving a little bit. What's another year going to hurt us? I'm not dying to own a home. Like, I'm not one of those people that thinks having a home is like the next step and you need to do that. And I get it, equity and finance wise, it's the best thing to do. However, like that's not really my top priority. I don't mind renting. I think there are a lot of pros to renting, not having to fix your own shit, not having to worry about a yard. Like there's so many things, but I do get it. I go back and forth, but like my end all be all is not to own a home. Like I don't really give a shit about that, but Carter really wants one and I get it. I'm there. Like I obviously would enjoy being in a home, but it's like if I have to live in an apartment for the next few years, that's fine too. You know what I mean? Anywho. Okay, so I told him, why don't we just find a townhome or a home rental that we enjoy and then we can just sit there. So even, okay, like I was saying, at the end of that lease term, if we can buy a house, okay, but like I would rather just wait then another year or two, again, build up the down payment, you know, accumulate more wealth. And at that point, you know, Carter will have been, you know, a third year, fourth year associate, and then we'll be in a better place to buy a better house as well. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. So we'll see, but it is going to be really hard for Carter, I know, because the location that we're in, the gym being downstairs, I know he's really attached to those two things, but I just like don't love this apartment. Also, the one bedroom, like for me to be able to film and to him have an office, like we need 2 bedrooms in general. We don't need it. Okay, Brenna, shut the fuck up. But it's like we're paying $2,500. We could just move a little bit on the outskirts, which I love living in the city. Again, I go back and forth every single day of my life, but we could easily get a 2-bedroom around the same price. You know what I mean? So it's just like, what are our top priorities? But that's kind of where I'm at with that. Okay, let's keep it moving. Oh my gosh, you guys, last night we watched on Netflix the Jerry Springer Show documentary. And I have some thoughts on it. Okay, if you don't know who Jerry Springer is or what the Jerry Springer Show was, it was a show, like, I'm talking actual 2000s, like 2000, 2001, 2002, roughly around that time. It started as a talk show host, which I didn't know until I watched this documentary. I remember being at my mother's house watching the Jerry Springer Show, and it was always the craziest shit you had ever seen. It was like, this man cheated on that girl, and they'd pull out the people and people would start fighting, or that he'd be doing like paternity tests. He's like, you are not the father. Was that Jerry Springer? No, that was another guy. Well, I think Jerry might have done it a little bit as well, but it was like the craziest shit you had ever seen on live television before. Oh my gosh, that little kid, that meme. I've never been on live television before, apparently. Oh my gosh. Anywho, okay. It was batshit insane. I also was thinking last night as we were watching the documentary, like, I can't believe my mom, well, of course, my mother of all people, allowed us to watch that. Like, it was insane, but it was, you couldn't look away. Like, it was so interesting. And so basically the documentary, of course, there's always like an angle. Well, basically it was 2 episodes, I think 2 longer episodes. There was a couple that came on. So it was a woman and her ex-husband, and now he was dating a girl, but he was still hooking up with his ex-wife. Okay. And it comes out that he had been abusive in that relationship. They did not talk about this on the show. And here's the thing, like, the behind the scenes and what they were showing on this documentary is like the producers would amp these people up. Like, these people chose to come on the show and share their fucking crazy stories, like the most embarrassing, humiliating things. But it was like they chose to go on the show. And here's where I'm having a hard time, like, buying the narrative that they were selling on this documentary. Is like, there was this guy constantly being shown, I don't even know who he is, but he was just saying how bad the Jerry Springer Show was and how they, they never helped these people. And then they would have them on the show and they would send them on their way. But it was like, these people chose to do it. And also, this was like an unprecedented time and thing. And this is what we have to remember. Like, it was like early TV and talk shows, and it had never been done before. And so when things like that have never been done, you don't even know what to do. Like, of course, today, if this show aired and like there was not like people taking care of them and making sure their mental health was okay, like, that shit just wouldn't fly today. And I think that's good. And I think that's great. But back then it was just different. And I'm not saying it was correct, but I think to just like blame Jerry Springer and all of these people, I don't know. I think it's just, everything is nuanced. It's easy to say they shouldn't have been doing that. Yeah, now, hindsight 2020, it's fucking insane, but it was a different time. You know what I mean? Well, basically, one of the narratives that they were sharing is that couple that came on, the wife, or like the ex-wife, the ex-husband, and then the other girl, the girlfriend or the mistress or whatever. It was always like the craziest shit. Basically, months after they came on the show, the man killed his ex-wife. He murdered her. He showed up at her house. And again, I don't know if they were still canoodling. I don't know. But basically, in this documentary, they were trying to kind of blame Jerry Springer because they had these people come on and humiliate themselves on the show and then sent them on their way. And it's like, number one, this man had shown to be abusive before. They didn't know that, but like now we do, right? Regardless of the show, before the show, he was abusive and there had been issues. And they were trying to like blame Jerry Springer for that happening. And I just like, I think that's crazy. You can't blame him. Like, how were they supposed to know that that happened? Even if they tried to help this man, he could have done that. Like, I don't know. I didn't like that, but I also am attached to Jerry Springer, and I watched that growing up, and it was like the best TV show you've ever seen. Like, it was just so wild to see people like that and like in these circumstances, which actually I was thinking to myself, I'm like, low key, this is John Deloney now. Like, John Deloney though is a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Ugh, I really should get that down so I'm not like misinterpreting him and like saying not correct things. But the other day, you guys, I watched a John Deloney episode, and this guy called and he married his high school sweetheart. They had kids right away. They were pretty young. They were like maybe early to mid 20s. And he was calling to ask John what he should do because he slept with his wife's stepmom. I'm like, holy fucking shit. Yeah, this would have been on the Jerry Springer Show. Of course, that was a show where they really wanted people to get in fights and like they'd pull out and it was like this drama thing, but like that's what got views and that's what like they passed Oprah Winfrey like in her prime. Like they got bigger numbers than her. Of course, because it was the craziest shit you'd ever seen. But anyways, I'm like, low key, like these things still happen. People are still in these crazy scenarios, but like obviously you just can't handle it the way that they did anymore. But I'm like, John Deloney, he takes these calls, which actually he's helping them. Like, I'm not comparing John Deloney to Jerry Springer. Well, kind of. I'm just saying, like, people call in with some crazy shit that you've never heard of. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just love that. I love that so much. So I guess I just love chaotic energy and people in absolutely wild bonkers scenarios. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so gross, but I just have to say this. They were like obviously showing recordings of the Jerry Springer Show on the documentary, and there was one where like there was a brother and sister, there was incest. It was like just the most bad shit. There was a man who married his horse. It was like so wild. Oh my gosh, I loved it. If you were too young or just like your parents were good parents and didn't allow you to watch Jerry Springer like in its prime, I feel really bad for you. What is that other man's name? The one that goes, you are not the father. He would like bring people on and girls would be like, he's the baby daddy. And like, they're trying to get the man to like pay for child support. Or it was like, this girl's been cheating. Or like, this girl was fucking like two brothers. And then this man, oh, Maury. Is it Maury? I think it's Maury or Maury, Maury. I think that's right. He would like interview them. They would be on the stage. It was so similar to Jerry Springer, like the whole setup. There was a crowd, a live audience. And then he would go, the paternity or the maternity. Oh my gosh, maternity. Obviously we know who the mom is. The paternity test is in, and he'd walk over off stage and then pick up this envelope and he would open it and he would go, John, you are not the father. Or it'd be like, Joseph, you are the father. And it would be like, and like the girls would be running around and screaming, or the guy would be pissed and he'd throw the chair, or somebody would be happy. You know, it was always somebody trying to prove. Like it was a girl who would be like trying to make this man pay for child support or just like take ownership of being the dad. And then Maury would go, you are not the father. And the woman would be like, ah! And then she'd run off the stage and she'd go hide because she was so embarrassed. Oh my God. That shit was incredible. That honestly, I wish we had shows like that today because it is iconic. Anywho, okay, let's talk about books. Last week, I think I told you I was reading The Intern by Michelle Campbell. I loved it, you guys. It was unlike anything I've read in a while. It was honestly kind of giving Geneva Rose vibes. I think only because The Perfect Marriage is about an attorney. The woman is an attorney, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. Well, The Intern is about a woman attorney prosecutor. Well, now she's a judge and she has an intern who's a student, and they both have these like little weave of like their own scenarios going on that kind of come together, and they're like figuring things out. I really enjoyed it. I just like could not put it down. It was a great, like, not necessarily thriller, but basically the judge was kind of involved in like fraudulent behaviors, and the intern thought she was like this wonderful judge. Like no way she could be involved in fraudulent stuff. And yeah, the whole story unfolds. Amazing. Loved it. Then I read The Wife in Between by Greer Hendricks and something else. Okay. Loved it. Honestly though, it kind of gave Housemaid. It kind of gave The Last Mrs. Parrish a little bit like kind of similar storyline, but I could not put it down. So regardless, I'm just saying, like, it's not like anything I've ever read, if that made sense. I just did. Is that a double entendre? Not. Anywho, that's not a double entendre, a double negative, right? Oh my God, Brenna. Anywho, it was still good. I loved it. Like, I also could not put that down. And now, you guys, here's the dilemma. And I just told you this on Instagram stories. I got a notification from Libby the other day that Middle of the Night by Riley Sager, which you guys know, I just read The House Across the Lake and I loved it, just came up on my Libby, like, I want to say maybe a week ago now, but I borrowed it because it gets passed out and then you never know when it's coming. But I was like, okay, after my next book, I'll read it. Well, anyways, it's there. Yesterday, okay, The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna finally came off of hold. I don't know how long it's been on hold, but I got it to borrow. But you guys know, when you're on Libby and you get to borrow something, it's for 21 days. So my Riley Sager one has like 13 days left and I really want to read it. But Nightingale just came up yesterday. So then it'll also have 21 days. So I'm trying to read Riley Sager. I literally just started it this morning at the gym. I want to read that first because it's obviously going to be up quicker, and then I'm going to read The Nightingale. And if you guys don't know my excitement, everybody talks about The Nightingale being their favorite book. I love Kristen Hanna. I've now read 3 of her books. Love. So I'm super excited about that. But that is my book update. You guys, I don't have any questions because I didn't know I was going to be filming today. Normally I would ask you guys to submit questions. However, I'm filming, like I told you, it's Wednesday instead of Thursday, but this leads me in to a wonderful topic. Now that I'm in the new year, okay, I have a lot of time on my hands. I've got a schedule of when I'm filming my Instagrams, when I'm filming my TikToks, when I do the podcast, but I do have a lot of time. Low key, I was on Indeed looking up part-time jobs. Hello? No. Okay. I actually got this question on my Ask Me Anything Tuesday yesterday. Somebody was like, what do you do with all of your time? Like, will you ever go back to working? Which, here's the unfortunate, wonderful reality. I'm going to let you guys behind the curtain really quickly. The amount of money you can make on social media, or I can make, is now, it's similar to every single job I've ever had. So first I worked at Midway Lanes, the bowling alley. Then I worked in college at that smoothie shop, like I've told you, and it was commission. I made so much fucking money. I made $3 per shake. You guys, I would make $200 in a 5-hour shift. Don't get me wrong. I was fucking busting down. I was making like 70 shakes in 5 hours. It was nonstop. It was work. But just to give you an idea, it was a lot of money for the time. And I loved that. I loved grinding. I loved that job. So then I came to Dallas. I did my internship. I worked at Equinox at the same time just to make a little bit of income. But that's why I jumped into real estate, because I could not justify the 35 or 40,000 or 30,000 salary I was being offered by Exos, the company I interned with. I was like, I could just make so much more money doing something else. Like, the wonderful and horrible thing about upping things in your life, kind of similar to the apartment. Like, once you get to a certain level or experience nice things, or once you make a certain amount of money, you're not going to go down, right? And I get my route is not traditional. Like, typically most people work like a corporate job or just like a more 9-to-5 job. It's not necessarily corporate, but you make whatever you make and you just slowly go up, or you transition and you make 50,000 and you make 60,000. Well, number one, that college job fucked me up because it was commission, but I was technically, what is that? I was making like over $40 an hour, essentially. If I made $200 in 5 hours, 30, whatever, around there, an hour. I could not understand how I was going to work a 9-to-5. It wasn't those traditional hours and make like a $30-something thousand salary. That's like no money. That's like a $10 an hour salary. Like, when you break it down, I don't know exactly, but I'm like, I would rather have 2 jobs working over 40 hours doing like bartending and working at a gym, something that I enjoy so much more than just getting a 9-to-5, a $30,000 or $40,000 salary just to get a salary. Like, doing the math in my head, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I would rather do 2 jobs that I enjoy and work more because I enjoy working than like work this job I'm not excited about. I'm making no money. Like that just didn't make sense to me, and why I declined, and then why I got into real estate because that was 100% commission and I made a fuck ton of money doing that. So I've never had this standard thing. I obviously then went to nannying, but then I was also still doing real estate at the same time. And that is exactly why I jumped into social media, because I saw that people could make a fuck ton of money, obviously. And so now where I'm at, the amount of money I can make on social media for the amount of work, don't get me wrong. I spent, over 2 years now building up my TikTok and now Instagram to what it is. Like, I'm not trying to dismiss it, but it's like, be so fucking for real. Like the actual work that you do to get paid is like stupid. It's stupid. So I've been on Indeed looking at like these part-time jobs, even just like I thought around us, there's a ton of like spas and like cutesy little stores. I'm like, I could just work part-time at like a front desk. Like, why don't I work at one of these esthetician things? Like I can walk over, I can work like 9 to noon. It would just kind of be something to do. Like that's kind of where my head was at, or an assistant of sorts, or like something like that. I just like, at this point, I don't need a job or anything. It's just like to do something and to fill my time and to also get perks out of it. You know what I mean? Like the reason I took the nanny job, I didn't need that at the time. I wasn't looking for that, but I loved the family and it was fun. And it was like, I was kind of getting over my real estate job, which I'm blessed to be able to do that. But I also have worked really hard to put myself in that position and like made all of this money in my past to have savings and be able to do that. But it's also so hard. I was looking on Indeed at these jobs. And so once you get gotten paid a certain amount, it's like, oh my God, I could work the front desk at this esthetician thing for like 10 or 15 bucks an hour. And it just like, it's not worth it to me, but I do have a lot more time now that I have more structure. So I was talking to Carter about it because I was like, I need a side hustle. I need something else, or I need to do something else in social media that fills up my time. And he was like, why don't you do another podcast episode a week? And I was like, that's a good idea, but what the fuck is it on? I do the questions, I catch up. Like if I'm doing 2 a week, what would the second episode be on? I was like, I love that. And I have the time for it. But that is why I'm telling you about this. If I were to do a second episode, what would you want it to be on? I was thinking of things that I enjoy. I'm like, I could do like a book episode every week, which I don't really know what that looks like. And I don't know if I would fill up a lot of time. Like everybody asked me to do a book club and I just don't even know what that looks like. Like I'm not a person that reads a book and like takes notes and like thinks that hard about things. I just like to read novels and keep it moving, but I could turn it into something. But I'm also like, I don't know how many book girlies I have or if that would be fun. Or, I could maybe do Monday is the catch up episode, the fun, what's going on in our lives. And then Friday is like questions. I could do anything, but I don't know, again, if it's like going to be worth my time, if you guys would even listen, if you would want that. So please, please, please either email me or just message me on Instagram. If you guys are listening to this about a second podcast episode, if you would listen, mainly what I want to know is what it would be on and what would be entertaining or just like something that I could talk about. I'm open to anything that interests me, but it was a really good idea. Thanks to Cutie Carter. He's so right. But I'm like, I don't know. And also, is it too much? I don't know. You guys let me know. Other than that, you guys, I am going to log off. That way next week I can come to you with better questions, better stories, updates. And yeah, I need to also just go film a ton of stuff. That way, if we are stuck indoors this whole weekend, I have content for you guys, because I have a feeling that if it snows, nobody's going to be leaving and I'm going to be stuck here with Carter, cutie Carter, which is great. I just hate filming in front of him. So I need to get my life together today. But thank you guys so much. I hope this was still a decently long episode. Thanks for always just letting me chit chat and bounce my ideas off of you. Also my stories. I appreciate you guys so much and I'm so glad you're here. And please, just any feedback in general. I want this to be a fun space and something you guys look forward to and don't get bored of, that it's interesting. So any and all feedback is always welcome. I freaking love you guys. That is all. I will see you guys next Monday. Okay, I'm going to leave it here. Bye, guys.